Did you know that the Church dedicates Thursdays and the month of April to the Blessed Sacrament? Since today, Thursday, April 28th, is the feast of St. Paul of the Cross, who had a special devotion to the Blessed Sacrament, let us read a short excerpt on his life from the book Legends of the Blessed Sacrament. Like Saint Leonard of Port Maurice, Saint Paul of the Cross, founder of the Congregation of the Passionists, devoted himself to mission work amongst the people. His recollection and devotion in the house of God was so great that others who saw him felt drawn to greater devotion themselves. One day he was accompanied by a pious youth to the church, when it happened that a heavy bench fell upon his foot and severely hurt him. Nevertheless, he went to the altar, knelt down, and remained motionless in prayer. His companion, remarking that blood was flowing from the wound, called his attention to it, but he gave no heed and went on with his prayers. When he quitted the church and his companion entreated him to allow him to bind up his wounds, "They are roses," said he. "Jesus Christ hath suffered many more, and I deserve far more for my many sins." To the adoration of the most holy sacrament, the pious youth ever united the contemplation of the bitter sufferings of the Lord. From this ceaseless contemplation flowed his wonderful love of suffering, and on this account God destined him to heavy work and many disappointments. Praying one day before the Blessed Sacrament, he heard the words, "A son who approacheth me should entirely belong to me." And at the same time there was shown to him in vision a scourge made of golden rods, upon each of which the name of love was inscribed. Paul endeavored to kiss these rods and bore with wonderful patience every adversity which later on happened to him. St. Paul received holy orders at the hands of Pope Benedict XIII, and from that time he devoted himself entirely to the saving of souls. It would not be possible to reckon the number of his missions, still less the number of souls whom he converted to God. An officer said once to him, "Father, I have been in the midst of fearful battles. I have stood by the cannon's mouth, and have never yet known fear. But your words make me tremble from head to foot." The strength and unction with which he preached, as in the case of all holy missionaries, he drew from his love and devotion for the most glorious sacrament. It was permitted him to receive special light for others during the celebration of the mysteries, as an eyewitness relates. On one occasion, Paul accused a religious of a fault, and before he could confess it or deny, the saint said, "You cannot deceive me, because I learned it this morning at the altar." John Baptist Senoy, an honorable man, was sick to death. The priest had already said the prayers for the dying when Paul of the Cross sought him. The sick man was insensible and in his death agony. Then the son of John Baptist, Anthony by name, approached and besought the prayers of the saint for the recovery of his father. The servant of God replied, "I shall be in Storta tomorrow and shall say Holy Mass at 11 in the morning. And when I take Jesus Christ into my hands, I will not let him go until he shall have granted me this favor." Anthony said, "But will my father be yet alive at 11 o'clock tomorrow?" "Yes," was the reply. The sick man remained in the same state until 11 o'clock the next morning, when, opening his eyes, he inquired for his son and asked him for something to eat. From that time the sickness left him and he recovered. The saint's love for God became more glowing as he approached the hour of his death. In the midst of all his great pain, his spirit was never troubled. He never gave a sign of impatience, never a wish for recovery. Often he said, "I will, neither to live nor to die, but that alone which God willeth." To a religious who showed sympathy for his sufferings, he said, "Do my sufferings displease you? They do not displease me." And as though he looked upon himself as nothing, "Earth," said he, "seeketh the earth." One day before his death he exclaimed with holy courage, "When our time comes, we must die courageously. The chicken-hearted fear death. Oh, how sweet, how beautiful to die by the hand of a father." As his end drew near, he received the holy viaticum, and when the priest entered the room with the ciborium, he cried out, "O dear Jesus, I declare that I live and die in the communion of the Holy Church. Come, O Jesus, come." Then, striking his breast and in a flood of tears, he exclaimed, "Lord, I am not worthy." He died on 18th October 1775.